So my name is Bobbie Huber. I've been with Cornerstone for approximately 15 years. My title is Vice President of Client Engagement, and as part of that, my role includes responsibility for client relations as well as our global travel program. My younger self, I would trust yourself and listen to that inner voice. You're smarter than you think. Hard times don't last. There's always hope. And moderation is a good thing, except when it comes to laughter. Travel is for everyone. This is no longer limited to those of wealth. It's true from a financial perspective, but it's also becoming increasingly true from a perspective of travelers who have a disability. Those are things that 20 years, even 15, 10 years ago, were just not something that was thought about. So I think that's one thing that I would say that has really changed from a travel perspective overall. When you talk about business travel specifically, it's changed for better or worse. Gone are the days where we would take a trip to a destination, say from Cincinnati to New York or Atlanta to New York, for a 1.5 or 2 hour meeting. Those days are gone. It's from a capacity perspective, but also from a financial perspective. Companies are more closely examining that. I would say that business travel is now more purpose-driven. If you're going to be traveling, there is, why are you traveling? What are you doing when you're traveling? But I think fundamentally there are two things that have really changed. One is the use of biometrics, where I've seen that. So I've seen it come from a place of where there was absolutely no ID required. In other words, I could get on a plane with someone else's ticket. No one checked, no one asked. I mean, as a former travel manager, had people who would end up in the destination that was in absolutely the wrong place because there was no checking. To the point where post 9/11, everyone required an identification. And now we're moving to a place where there really isn't an identification. It's going to be moving toward your use of biometrics. Technology that supports the business travel industry hasn't really changed in the last many years, but is beginning to. So I'm excited to see that those things are happening and that people are paying attention to that. I think the other thing that I would say is contract accountability. From the buyer side of things, years ago, it was, you get a contract, everybody gets a contract, and nobody really was held accountable for the results of meeting those demands of the contracts. And that is changing dramatically as well. Cornerstone in 5 years, one of the big things will be broadening our use of AI. Obviously we are already doing many things in that area, but I believe it will be an expansion which will change fundamentally the way things are reported, the way we interact with reporting, the way we travel. Just AI in general, I think, will be a much broader integration for us. I think the other thing I would say is it's expanding beyond what I would call the traditional travel operations, travel reporting. So, looking at expanding that through the use of data integrations and consolidation to more deeply integrate with human capital, for example. A deeper integration of reporting with spend, including virtual, the actual plastic card, blockchain, or what other payment mechanism may come along, which, I think we've just begun to see the tip of the iceberg there. So I think those are some of the things that I would say in the next 5 years that, we'll be exploring and will expand. The other thing I would say is expanding, again, as I mentioned, beyond traditional travel and travel operations, but that would include moving to, more integrations with and conversations with finance operations from a corporation perspective.